Is this the best wildlife encounter I had in 2023 exploring the parks, or is it this guy? Thanks for checking out my channel here. Let's go explore what wildlife we met in the Grand Tetons, Yellowstone and Glacier in 2023. I was lucky enough to spend a bunch of time exploring. Grizzly 399 here though. She might be the top. I'll let you decide though. This grizzly is known as the mother of many of the grizzlies in the greater Yellowstone area. I was lucky enough to capture her in June as she came out with her cub of the year. She was trying to scratch her back here against a tree. I didn't realize it was 399 initially because you couldn't see her cub of the year. After scratching her back, she actually crossed the road amongst a bunch of photographers looking for her with her cub of the year. Pretty cool experience. I'm not sure if this is my top experience or not, but it was awesome to see her and her baby cub here. 27-year-old mom, very old for a grizzly with a cub. Cascade Canyon. We ended up hiking up Cascade Canyon after seeing 399, running into this mama and her 3 black bears. As you'll see in this video, so much wildlife we encountered in 2023. After exploring Cascade Canyon, we headed back down to camp where we ran into another log jam of cars looking at 399. I hope this video helps you realize how much wildlife is in the 3 big national parks and what you might see if you go exploring in these great parks of Grand Tetons, Yellowstone, and Glacier. As you'll see in this video, she's going to be one of 20 bears we encounter in the summer of 2023. The next day we decided to hike up to Taggart Lake, another really awesome hike in the Grand Tetons besides Cascade Canyon. Taggart Lake here you'll see is gorgeous, but check out what's on the far side of this lake. It's a moose and her calf. That is awesome. Yeah. As you'll see many of my wildlife encounters in this video, it pays to just look and take your time and observe what's around you. Pretty awesome experience here with this bald eagle sitting in the tree. Most of the people never even noticed it at the Jackson Dam. We then parked and we ended up taking a float trip down the Snake River. Pretty awesome. We spent about 3 or 4 hours floating the snake. Awesome experience. The views are great, but the bald eagles along the snake really were awesome, including this adolescent eagle here, where it doesn't have the white head like his older ancestors. Just below Jackson Dam is a place known as Oxbow Bend, an amazing place. You get some really nice reflections off the water here on a clear day. This day was actually cloudy, but we saw a bunch of Canadian geese while we were kayaking along the Snake River. Lots and lots of clouds, overcast day. We ended up hiking over to Heron Pond near Coulter Bay campground to check out what we might see in that lake. beaver lodge out there. A couple beaver lodges were in the lake, one on the shoreline, but no beavers, unfortunately. Probably too early in the day, but tons of Canadian geese. Heron Pond's well worth the hike if you get the chance, not too far and it's flat. Heading back to camp, we ran into some elk. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you the elk rut from September that was amazing in the Grand Tetons. The next day, we went over to Jackson Dam. It was a clearer day, not as cloudy, and there were a bunch of pelicans feeding in the whitewater just below the dam. As you can see, we had a lot of fun in the Grand Tetons, tons of wildlife. It was trying to head north a little bit up to Yellowstone National Park for a few days to see which wildlife we might find up there, including Old Faithful Geyser here, where the bison tend to hang out. If you're careful enough and get lucky enough, you can find some of these beautiful creatures. Largest mammal in North America. This guy here was just hanging out at the geyser, and then he decided to roll in the dirt, putting on a pretty good show for the crowd. If you get lucky, hopefully you'll get to see some bison near Old Faithful. We then headed up north towards camp, and we ran into this male grizzly, I think a male grizzly or a sub-adult, coming out of the trees. But check out what was coming out near. A mama grizz and her 2 cubs. This is a bad situation because male grizzlies tend to kill baby cubs. As you'll see here, the mama grizz doesn't really pick up scent of the unwanted grizzly for a while. Eventually she sniffs it out or hears it, and the cubs and her get up on hind legs and watch it and then take off running. Check out the encounter. I was actually shocked when she took off running. She ran towards that grizzly, keeping a close eye on it, turning back often. But luckily, no one got hurt here, and all the grizzlies went on their merry way. That was a pretty amazing encounter to see Mama Grizz and her 2 cubs avoid that other grizzly that was not wanted. As you'll see here, this place turned into a zoo when you have wildlife in Yellowstone. We watched safely from our truck at a pullout. You want to make sure you keep your distance from these animals if you explore these parks, as they are wild. The one animal you're going to be guaranteed to see in Yellowstone is the American bison here. Tons of them. In the middle of the park, they're around the geysers of the thermal events. If you head up to the northern part of the park, in a place known as the Lamar Valley, highly recommend going there. There's tons of wildlife there in the summer. You'll be lucky enough to hopefully see a lot of the bison and their newborns. Those birds were pretty cool near the outhouses there in Lamar Valley. My kids and I ended up watching the wildlife in Lamar Valley and were lucky enough to find a wolf. The wolf was hanging out near the river, protecting, I believe, probably her den when a coyote came in. Check out this chase. As we watched along the riverbed here, along the shoreline, that coyote starts heading up the bank, and the wolf gives chase. Pretty cool encounter to watch. Wish I was closer though. The Lamar Valley, it's such an amazing place. We ended up getting up at 5 in the morning to drive up to Lamar Valley in hopes of seeing wildlife in the morning, and it didn't disappoint with all the bison and the chance to see this wolf. Lamar Valley, awesome place. The next day we ended up heading into the center part of the park to check out Canyonlands. Canyonlands, so much power behind that water, the way it carved out the canyon itself. After exploring that, we headed over to Hayden Valley, where we ran into another grizzly and her 2 cubs. This seemed to be the year for the grizzlies. Pretty amazing the number of bears we had already seen, and we hadn't even made it up to Glacier National Park yet. We watched Grizzly 864 here take a nap underneath this pine tree for about a half hour from a far distance, as you can see. Was able to get a few good pictures of her and her 2 cubs. Yellowstone turned out to be awesome this year, but it was time to head on up north another 450 miles to the greatest park in the country, Glacier National Park. Amazing place. We spent many days up here this summer. Did a lot of hiking. One of the major hikes up here is known as Hidden Lake, where we ended up encountering another grizzly.
Yeah.
So if I fall down that way, I'm not gonna die.
No. You always can walk on the right hand side so you don't like fly off into the abyss.
As I pointed out earlier, it's really important to take your time and check out the scenery around you. This mountain goat and her baby were high on the cliffs above us while we were hiking up to Hidden Valley. There's a little guy. On the trail up to Hidden Lake, we ended up encountering a bunch of marmots. Check this guy out, a yellow-bellied marmot right at the overlook. There's a grizzly in the lake, huh?
He's down there in the corner. Down there in the corner, Dad.
You see him, huh?
Yeah,
In the water?
I saw him splashing around down there.
That's grizzly number what? 12. The Park Service had the trail closed down to the lake because of that grizzly. So many mountain goats up here and mountain sheep. These guys are just running all over the place in this trail up to Hidden Lake. Mountain sheep were pretty cool, but check out these 2 bighorn just watching the landscape. you ever go to Glacier, Many Glacier, I think is the best campground in all of the park. We had a moose visiting us in camp. This guy looked pretty thin, not much meat on him, but he was just wandering through camp. That moose was really hungry, chomping on the leaves around camp. Many Glacier is known for the many great hikes. One of them happens to be Iceberg Lake, where we encountered a ton of wildlife. This is Grizzly number 13 for us. Such a crazy experience hiking this summer with all these bears. This guy was just chomping on the grass off the trail. It wasn't much longer, we encountered another bear on this hike. This one I believe is a black bear. Here's another example of making sure you take your time hiking and know what's watching you while you're hiking by on the trail. We eventually made it to Iceberg Lake, my favorite hike in all Glacier. The next day we ended up taking a much easier hike known as Red Rock Falls, where we ran into this deer and we ended up seeing another bear at the waterfall just eating lunch. We looked up on the cliffs and we ended up watching this bear come out of the woods.
Now I do.
See him? Came right out. He's in that tree.
Coming back from the falls was one of our best encounters all summer. This moose in the lake that we watched for about 30 minutes. Watching this moose feed in the lake, it's a pretty amazing scene. I'm not quite sure how they hold their breath so long. The next day we decided to go back up to Logan Pass and do the hidden lake hike again. And once again we were able to see some mountain goats. Mama goat here and her baby, pretty awesome scene along the ridge line. These two goats actually came down closer to the trail, which is pretty awesome to watch as they made their way down the mountain ridge towards the trail and towards Hidden Valley Lake overlook. They eventually arrived at the trail, chewing on the bushes around the trail itself. The baby goat was awesome to watch with her mom. On the same trail up to Hidden Lake where we saw the goats, we ended up running into some bighorn sheep as well. The next morning we ended up hiking over to St. Mary Falls of Virginia Falls. high above St. Mary's Falls, you had a great view of the lake where we ended up seeing several moose in the lake. We sat on the trail looking down on this lake and watching this moose for probably 15 minutes. After watching the moose and passing St. Mary's Falls, we finally made it to Virginia Falls. Virginia Falls and St. Mary Falls were awesome. We then headed up over Logan Pass down to Avalanche Lake Trailhead. Really challenging to find a parking spot here, but hiking through the Trail of Cedars, gorgeous. Highly recommend this little hike, but we ended up heading up to Avalanche Lake. Gorgeous little hike up the canyon here. The lake itself is beautiful. You get waterfalls coming off the edges of the cliffs up there high. Fun place to take a snack and eat lunch, but we did see some wildlife. This black bear jumped out on the trail as we were coming back down. I backed away slowly. It went the other direction. There was no confrontation. It kind of takes a look at me as we walk away in separate directions. Pretty crazy encounter. I did not see this guy until pretty late. So as you can see, I had a pretty amazing summer exploring the Grand Tetons, Yellowstone and Glacier. We ended up coming back to the Tetons and Yellowstone in the fall to check out the elk rut. I got a new adapter for my scope from All In. Love the adapter. This is the first videos I took on it of these pelicans at the Fontenelle Reservoir on the Green River in southwestern Wyoming. Pretty cool spot to camp. I'll leave a link in the description to this campground. My channel often has videos of campgrounds where we've camped at over the years, and backpacking adventures as well. After checking out these pelicans, we ended up heading up into the northern part of the Wind River Range, which is an amazing mountain range where the headwaters of the Green River exist. And you can see the Green River here. This is an 18-mile dirt road to get to the upper part of the Green River, to where you find the upper Green River Lakes area and the Tabletop Mountain. Some amazing country up here. Planning to come back here this fall and do some campground adventures, backpacking into these mountains and just exploring them more. So hopefully I'll put some videos together for the channel on that. This is my son here and I just eating a lunch. Did not see any wildlife the day we were in here camping, but we headed over to the Grand Tetons, again one of the greatest parks ever, to check out the elk rut in September, which was an amazing scene that you'll see in these videos coming up. Pretty amazing bull elk. There's a better one coming up though, but on our way over to Yellowstone we passed that fox along the road. We headed up to Yellowstone for one day, one night. Played with my scope a little bit more. Pretty cool device, so check out how we can see the bison here talking to one another. It was a very quick trip to Yellowstone. We only saw bison, didn't see any other wildlife like we did back in June and July. But back in the Grand Tetons, the elk were in full swing. This bull elk here might have been the best bull elk I have ever seen down near Jackson Dam. We were lucky to get 3 more nights in the Grand Tetons, checking out the wildlife every evening, which seemed to be prime time. Enjoying time at camp here at Coder Bay. Highly recommend Coder Bay if you're going to camp in the Grand Tetons. We ran into more pelicans too, which seems crazy. There's so many pelicans in Wyoming, but yeah, we ran into some more right below Jackson Dam, just kind of fishing, looking for food. I'm not sure what the deal is with that water, but they sure seem to like it below the dam. We then the next day headed over to Jenny Lake area and ended up taking the boat across to do the best hike in all of the Grand Tetons of Cascade Canyon, where you're going to see we encountered a bunch of moose. As we were climbing up into Cascade Canyon with Grand Teton in front of us, we encountered the first mama moose and her calf. Probably my most scariest encounter all summer long. Moose kind of scare me. This lady was just next to the trail, came out of the bushes as we were walking by with her calf. Cascade Canyon never disappoints. The view of the Grand Teton is amazing, and it's full of moose. I've done 3 trips across the Grand Tetons backpacking over the years. I always run into moose. Here's this bull moose down by the river just feeding in the middle of the day, which is kind of weird. They haven't laid down yet.
Awesome.
You can hear all those clicking of cameras going off in my background. Cascade Canyon can be very crowded with people if you happen to go up it, unless you get high up into the canyon. The other really cool thing about the Grand Tetons is it also has bison, just like Yellowstone's overrun with them. You can park along the roadway and just watch them from your cars. Bison never get old. Oxbow Bend here though, amazing place. I discovered that this in the evening, just before the sun goes down, was going to be one of the best places to view the elk rut in 2023 of September. Let's check out some of the elk that came out of the trees here. This, I believe, is my most favorite video of the elk rut of this fall. This bull elk trying to catch the gal. Appreciate you watching this content. Until our next summer adventures, hopefully this gives you a flavor for some of the wildlife we saw in the 3 big national parks, Tetons, Yellowstone, Glacier. Hoping to go back in 2024 and capture more wildlife encounters. This moose encounter, I think, was my scariest adventure or experience all summer, seeing wildlife, even more than those grizzly bears. Hoping you are able to make some memories out there as well, exploring the national parks. There's such an awesome place to explore. Until our next adventure, thanks for being here.